The following is from the book God at Geylang, His Stories in Singapore's Red Light District, authors Debbie Zhang and Tan Lei Ling, read by Angelina Cheng and Clarence Lim. All rights reserved by House of Olive Leaf Limited.
Chapter 10. Street Indian Ladies. Jesus, Jesus. They queued up for prayer.
When we first met them, we were physically exhausted after having already spent 3 hours walking and ministering to people along the streets. When I spotted a few Indian ladies standing afar, we decided to approach them. Despite the language barrier, it was amazing that through our evangelistic cards, they were able to identify that we were Christians. While 2 of my team members were praying for one lady, another lady came over to me and asked for my prayer. Very soon, the ladies came out from the house one by one to queue up for prayer. Isn't this like the story of the Samaritan woman in the Bible, who, after tasting the goodness of Jesus, went back to ask the entire village out to meet Jesus? Every time we left them, we would leave with heavy hearts. At the same time, we felt relieved that we were able to bring them much joy and hope, even though we did not know how else we could help them. The ladies could only speak Telugu, so we could not communicate with them at all. But whenever we prayed for them, they would often fall under the presence of God onto the bumpy streets of Geylang. Our journey with Anashai, Sayamai, and Zuri was a testimony of God's mercies and grace. In their late 20s, the 3 ladies were promised a job as housemaids in Singapore. As it turned out, they were deceived into prostitution work in Geylang. During a police raid, they were caught and held in Singapore so as to testify against the crimes of their boss. Each week, they had to report to the relevant authorities to have their visa stamped, with no hope of returning home in sight. This seemingly endless waiting also meant the pain of having to work as Geylang ladies to support themselves and their families in India. On top of that, they had to repay the hefty loans they took to pay the agent fees to get them here. Even though against their wishes to continue in this trade, they had no choice, and staying at shelter provided by police was definitely out of the question. It went on like this for 7 months before they met us. Though God had miraculously healed their sickness after our prayers, Anashai, Dayamai, and Zuri also desperately wanted to go back home. They were always so happy to see us. We would bring them apples and bless them with a meal whenever we could.
Going home at last.
In July 2013, I accompanied the 3 Indian ladies to the Immigration of Checkpoints Authority, ICA. God faithfully led me to the officer in charge of their case. After hearing what I shared and checked the updates in the computer system, she told me over the phone that their case actually had just been closed. Later, I went back to Geylang together with the ladies to pay their outstanding hostel fees. The ladies were overwhelmed with joy that they cried and repeatedly shouted, "Jesus, Jesus!" The hostel auntie also rejoiced with them as they shared how these ladies had been crying day and night over their predicaments. Before they departed from Singapore, Lai Hing, the Geylang ministry sister, brought them to Gardens by the Bay, where they saw a beautiful rainbow, reminding her of God's covenant. On 9 July 2013, Anashai, Dayamai, and Zuri left Singapore with the love they had received from Jesus and the miracles they had witnessed. At the first Geylang outreach after the 3 ladies left Singapore, a Bangladeshi lady smiled at me and said, "I know the Indian ladies were able to go home because you prayed to Jesus for them." This book, God at Geylang, documents stories of the Creator God who loves deeply every single life He creates, including the marginalized and downcast people group at Geylang. It is our prayer that you will be blessed by these stories. As God loves this special group of people, He loves you too. For this entire book of 12 chapters, or for this book in other languages, visit us at geylangministry.com.